Hello again, everybody. Doc Bass coming back at you with the second in the Maps for Bass Fishing series. You may recall my earlier video actually was kind of an overview of different types of maps that were available online. And the last type of map that I actually discussed in that video was topographic maps. Um, in that video, I actually went to a site that is maintained by a company called MapTech and showed you some things about the map and topographic maps and things to think about. One of the problems with going to an online resource like MapTech, it's a commercial company. They make their money by selling maps. So, other than getting a look at the map or maybe clipping that one little section out of it, if you want to get anything further from them, you're going to have to buy it and pay money for it. Fortunately, however, in today's world, there are agencies out there of the government, usually the state government, sometimes the federal government, that actually make topographic maps available for you. And this is virtually present in all states today. The groups are associated usually with something using the acronym GIS, Geographic Information Services, Geographic Information Sciences, kind of changes based on who's using it. But at any rate, these groups maintain digital topographic maps, also referred to in their digital form as digital raster graphics, DRGs. So if you go to your state agency, or go to your state government website, look for a state agency that has GIS. It could be that department in and of itself. It could be the highway department or transportation department. Sometimes they have them. Go into their archives. Most states today have these available for free, and you can actually download full quadrangles. This one I downloaded is what's referred to as a 1 to 24,000 quadrangle. And what I did is I snipped out a segment of an area of land that actually, in its, as you're looking at it here on the screen, it is indeed the land surface. When this map was actually created, it was back in the early 1980s. The area was still, it had a couple of streams. That was the only water course going through it, but it was basically dry land. There was, however, in this area, a reservoir constructed in the early 1990s, was completed in the mid-1990s. So much of this area, and actually the shoreline, is denoted by the tips of these blue arrows I have going here through this section of the map. That's the current shoreline location after this reservoir was constructed and the area was inundated. The really cool thing is, if you can get a hold of one of these historic topographic maps before the lake or reservoir was built, you get to see things as they were. And that's keenly important, and I'll point out some things here in a moment of why that's important. I will, kind of apologize. I did try to freehand draw the actual shoreline contour here that would follow basically in here, where I'm just kind of sketching with my point here. But I found out how bad I am as a mouse artist. So using my mouse, I just couldn't get it done. So that's why I put the arrows in there to kind of show the location of the shoreline. The other thing is this map happens to use the metric system in reporting its units. So these contours are actually in meters, not in feet. This contour here is the 320 meter contour. If you're just looking at it to figure out what's going on, it really doesn't matter. This would be the 324 meter contour, and the lake shoreline is actually at 325, so it's going to be just inside this thing. Everything to the left of this or west is inundated. Everything to the right or east of these is still high and dry. Okay, so that gives you some sense of what you're looking at here. A couple of other things. These little rectangles here, solid and X'd, are different types of structures that exist, or actually some of them still even exist today. An important key factor. This thing coming down through here is a roadbed, or at least, well, down to this point it's a roadbed. Then it used to be a roadbed that is now under the water. Actually goes down out here across the center of the lake, and as you look across this lake, you can see the exit, or where the roadbed used to go on the other side of what is now the reservoir. This area out here is all inundated. Okay, why is that important? Well, bass and other game fish love to follow migration pathways from their deep water areas that they might be using in the summer or the winter or the early spring or late fall, and use those pathways to get up into the shallows. It's springtime here. Okay, the bass have finally started to move up. Actually, they've moved up for a couple of weeks now. Water temperatures are finally into the low 60s. So they've been following these migration pathways as they start to make their ways up into these areas and start to go back into the the cove areas where they're going to be spawning. So that's a key area you might want to be looking for where the bass are moving to. The low 60s, upper 50-degree temperatures. The males are going to be up here. The females might still be out here staging. Yeah, that's I'm going to be looking. That's where the bigger fish are located. Okay, so an important thing to keep in mind. Great migration pathway. The green areas here are places where there are trees, or in this case used to be trees. When they built this lake, other than the last quarter of the lake going north, the upper end of the reservoir, they basically took out all the trees that were standing. They said they cleared and grubbed it, so that means even the stumps should be out of there at this point, except for, like I said, that uppermost region part of the reservoir, toward the headwater area, in the backs of the coves. So again, the shoreline, is coming back through here, and basically back in this section of this cove, those trees are still standing. Have an old little creek bed that used to come down through here. Trees standing in this area. What a great place to go start thinking about looking for fish. Okay, especially bass. Love those bass. Okay, other things. We had the rectangles as buildings that are still above water. A rectangle here that has been changed into something else today. But then we have rectangles that are down here out below the water. Well, they took those buildings down when they built the lake, but they probably left parts of the foundation here. Again, those are cover on structure, the overall shape of the shoreline. There might be places from time to time whole bass and are worth checking out, seeking those places out and kind of considering those things. Right. So the main emphasis here is the fact that when you can get a hold of a topographic map, especially an older topographic map that was made or created before the actual lake was constructed, the reservoir was constructed, you can get a tremendous amount of information because, this roadbed is still out there today. I tell you, I've caught a lot of fish right out in this area off of this roadbed. And some very nice fish, including a nice 6-pounder here about a year or so ago. So it's a great place to go check and find out where those fish are, or the pathways that those fish are using as they migrate to different areas of the lake. Okay, and that roadway goes all the way across to the other side of the lake, the reservoir. Out here in the deeper water, there's also a bridge out there somewhere. That might be something that's worth checking out if the fish go that deep. Also, all the trees that they removed here, they just didn't haul them away. They stacked them down here in the deep water with huge brush piles along the old the riverbank. So again, that's another thing you're going to want to go check out. If this was a post map, topographic map, in other words, the topographic map was actually created after the lake, well, all you'd see is blue stuff out here where the water was. You'd see the shoreline, but it would still give you some indication about what the general land shape is going on. Here we have a nice point indicated up here, nice little ridge area. Well, that extended offshore, right? So if you get a topographic map that just happens to show the shoreline area, because again, the map was created after the reservoir was built, you're still going to get an indication of what those points are going to be like, or at least what they were like originally. So they're not, there's some use to those as well. In that case, you'd be better off, or at least supplementing that with a lake map as well that'll actually show you the subsurface contours specifically. So I hope this gives you some hint, gives you an idea of some of the things you should be looking at. Try to seek out those old topographic maps. Sometimes if you go to old libraries, you'll find them there. They may date back to the 20s, 30s, whatever, but they can give you a lot of great information. So there's another tip from Doc Bass. We'll be back at you soon.